Okay, so we are back for part 2 of the Berry Blues laser kit, arranging the appliques. So my phone was dying before, and I'm kind of a nerd, so I knew it was a little low, and I had plugged it in with this cord and had to pull it back here out of the way so that it wouldn't be in the video. And it turns out that I unplugged it from the block, which is why it wasn't charging. So my bad. So now this one will have to be a part 1 and a part 2. I hate doing that, but I like it when they're all in one video, but this one, sorry. Although we were almost complete with this branch, right? So it's basically now we're going to just do the same video again. But I was almost finished with this when my phone beeped at me and died. So I went ahead and just finished those little berries. And now what I'm going to do is in the instructions, we're going to now rotate the runner. So everything is pressed down pretty good, and I'm not really worried about anything moving. You don't want to like move it around or fold it all up and put it away forever right now, because we haven't really fused anything at this point to keep it really well in place. But to just gently move it over, flip it over, and do this, we're good to go. So what we're going to do, and you'll notice in this layout, there's this little section here, this little drawing here of the berries. This is the one that we just did. So we're going to line that up as well as our center and horizontal lines. So I find lining that up really kind of gets you lined up here really quickly. And we are good to go. So we're ready to go ahead and start with branch number 2. So we're just repeating the same process that we did in starting up here, and it tells you to repeat steps 9 through 13 for the second branch. So starting with step 9, we're doing that berry 1 and 2 again. So we got berry 1, and these are the ones, you know, that go behind that branch. So one of them is right here. And number 2 is right here. Then we do the branch. So we'll get our second branch. Oh, and also I put that weight, I just put my tape dispenser. It's a nice little weight to keep it in place. Or like I said, you can always use those clips too. My mom was using those when she was doing a few sample ones for me. And she really likes to use those little clips to kind of keep it in place. I always like to be able to still lift this up and look underneath. So if you do use the clips, I'd suggest like maybe around the top to kind of hold them. And then I do that fold and peel, and then just really gently peel. You don't want to do it too harsh, because you can stretch and tear that if you're too harsh on it. So hold on. So let me find, here's this spot. Here's this spot. And I'm just going to just gently put this in place. And I'm starting here at this V again, because it's a nice area to make sure that I kind of get, start it in the center. And then if I did have any accidental stretching, it kind of, oh, I can't think of the word right now. It distributes that stretch over both the right and the left of the branch. Okay, so just getting it in place, we're good. Okay, so now we're going to do the branch, and now leaves A through X. So I'll grab my next set of leaves, and we're just starting on the left and we're going right. Starting with A, B, C. These pop out so easily. D, usually shapes that are just like little round, got a little thread sticking out. round or real smooth shapes, they always cut so nice and pop out so easy compared to like maybe ones that have fur that are more jaggedy. I mean, they still cut out, they still pop out pretty easy too. All of them do, or I try to make sure that they all do. You know, with my laser, I try to do settings that keep them in place so you can label everything, but hopefully they're not just like, you know, falling out everywhere to where it's a kind of a mess, but that they pop out easy. So there's sort of like a little balance to find that sweet spot where they pop out easily, but they don't fall out too easy where you're losing pieces. So I'm on I. We got J, K. Oh, and I have another little thread sticking out. So those little threads, when they stick out, I like to clip them off. L, M, N, O, P, I think I'll move this up just a little bit. Q, let's see where, last time I had the same deal, I was like, where's Q? Oh, I remember. It's on the branch. And last time I was looking for it too. I was like, where is that little guy? It's right there. R, little thread sticking out, clip that off. S, okay, so we've got T, U, V, W, and X, and we're done with all of those leaves. So then the next thing was all of the little pink blossoms. So starting again on this end with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. This design, when I actually got my laser machine back in 2015, the beginning of 2015, this was the first design that I actually did as a laser cut. So my pieces might not always be absolutely perfect. I've definitely learned some tricks since then on making sure that they are cut really nice and clean. And I did notice that when you when you do the laser digitizing right on the design, when you go to cut it, they end up a little smaller, and you notice that on some of these ones here. And that's just because, like, now I've learned that, like, when you do the laser and I'm tracing through the middle, if they're real skinny, sometimes I actually make them look a little thicker so that when the laser, you know, cuts and does that burn, it you don't lose some of that bulk that you kind of want in your final piece there. Oops. Where's L? Oh, there's L. But the first one that I digitized, I actually, my best friend, her and I and her husband went on a trip to the Big Island of Hawaii together for a few days. I visited her in Portland, and then we went to the Big Island, and we'd never gone on a trip anywhere together before, so it was really fun. And it was just me and her husband, who was a good sport, you know, and let us kind of have our girl time sometimes. And anyhow, the last day that we were there, they left, actually the day before me, they left, I was there basically 24 hours more. I left the next morning. So the last day I went, and that's it for that. I went and got stocked up. I had some poke, I had some other snacks and stuff to get me through the day. And okay, I'm just going to quickly, before I get talking too much here, let you know that we're going to now start the berries again. So I'm just going to go ahead, and we're doing berries 1 through 28. I'll grab the rest of my berry pieces here, and then I'll keep telling my little story. Okay, so 3A, I want... Here we go. So anyhow, I got myself all stocked up, and was just going to hang out at the condo for the last day, just myself. And I said, you know, I'll start digitizing my first design. And so that day, while I was all on my own, hanging out on the Big Island down off Ali'i Drive in downtown Kona, I got working on my first design to digitize, and not my first design, but the first one I chose to digitize, which was this berry one. So I had picked a few of my older designs to start with, ones that were popular, that remained popular, and this was the first one that I worked on. And so I sat in the condo. They had, the one that we rented was right by the Magic Sands beach, and I had a condo where they had taken the balcony and they had made it into a little bedroom. And so I was able to sit like in an enclosed balcony right off the water and just digitize and have a snack and then go sit in the pool for a bit and go back and digitize. And that is what I did my last day. I did end up taking a walk because I realized later that I did not get myself any water. So I took a walk up the beach, or up the street, along the beach, and it was actually beautiful. Of course, most days they're beautiful. And one of the coolest things was, on my walk, I ended up going by this area where this huge sea turtle was out on the rocks, and I got to, you know, like, get some great pictures of it, really up close, and he was just chilling there. And so it was really, really cool. So the best view I'd ever had of a turtle. And so that was really neat. And then back to my condo to digitize. And the next day, when I went home, on my travels home, I actually digitized in the airport, and got this one done before I got home. So it was the very first one that I did that process with. And so I was, you know, kind of learning as I went. But and it still remained popular. I thought, you know, back 2015, it was already quite a few years old by then. I did it in 2011. And so, you know, kind of thinking like, hopefully it's popular for a few more years, and it has just remained one that I just can't stop doing. Every year it's one of my most popular ones. And of course up here in Alaska, blueberries are such a big thing. We have a lot of places in the state where you can go berry picking, and so people love blueberries up here. We are a berry state. Berries grow really well. I grow strawberries and raspberries at my house, and I'm actually this summer I'm hoping to expand my strawberries and raspberries. I've got a couple Hascat berry plants which do really well in my area, better than the blueberries. I planted some blueberry bushes, but they don't do anything. They grow some leaves. I've never had a berry on them. I think I'm not a very good gardener, so I'm sure I'm doing something wrong. But I had some people tell me that Hascat berries are a little more friendly for folks like me who aren't very good with plants. So I'm going to try to do some of those. Let's see. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's why I'm not finding it. Uh-oh. Oh, it fell out. Here it is. So I'm on 11. 12. A little thread. Okay, getting there. So, you know, it's the same process we already did on the other side, just repeating. And so, actually that goes like that. Wait a minute. Did I grab the wrong one? I'm just going to put that on there. That one seems to be incorrect, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. It looks fine. Here, I'll move it over like that. There we go. Let's do 13. I pulled the paper off of it. I don't know where it was. I might have grabbed the wrong number. 13. 13B. That's one of the things too with these. They're, you know, they're so, oh, I did that last time too. I put 13 in the wrong place. When you get into where your seams are, and I have, you know, seams, that's 3 layers of fabric under that seam, makes it more difficult to see. And so it's easier for me to accidentally put it in the wrong spot because it's harder to read the numbers. And I am noticing that I'm getting a little off. Just straightening myself back up. Here's 14 and 14. This should be in here. Yep. And these ones, again, I don't really worry that I'm putting them in exactly the right position because for me, you know, everything, they're berries. They're just kind of, you know, growing randomly out there, right? And so they aren't necessarily going to be like, if you accidentally put, so here's 15B. So if I put it on here in the way that it shows, you know, it's nature. Again, nature is not perfect. So the way that it's supposed to be is like this. Now, if I accidentally put that upside down and I had it like this, you're not going to notice that. I mean, especially if I take the background away, I'll just leave it like that. That one's upside down and nobody is going to see that. And even if you come by, one of you watching this someday, and you make it to the store where this particular one is hanging, you're going to go, oh, which number was it? Which one was it? Oh, I have no idea. Who cares? It looks just fine. Like you won't notice. So I don't encourage sloppiness or laziness. I'm just trying to make sure that people understand that the designs are very forgiving. So if you are new to it, you're going to find that when you put it together, it might take you a little longer. You might not be as fast, you know, as I am. I've done a few of these, but yours is going to turn out really well. And I think that you'll be impressed with how easy it is. I have a lot of people who tell me that it's like putting together puzzles. And it really is. I didn't think about that when I was doing them before, but it really is sort of like putting together a puzzle. Um, and I always say, if you can put stickers on a page, you can do these. You know, that's essentially what these are. These are little stickers that you're arranging, you know, where they're supposed to, where you're told to put them. Um, so, uh, so I hope that watching these tutorials, I think that you'll find that if you watch a few, you're going to go, okay, it's the same thing. It's like the same deal over and over and over again. And it is. Once you've done a few of them, you won't even need to watch a tutorial. I mean, if you want to, you certainly can. Some people, you know, I like watching tutorials on doing ceramic stuff. And sometimes it's the same deal over and over. But it's kind of fun to watch it. And just kind of, learn a little better. It sort of gets it ingrained in your head, the process. And this is, kind of the same thing. But I always say, once you've done a couple of them, you really don't need the tutorials anymore, because you'll learn what the process is and you'll know. And my instructions are usually pretty much the same. It's like, this one is one where we're arranging directly onto the background. Some of them will use an applique pressing sheet and we'll arrange parts of a design on a pressing sheet, and then we'll arrange and then once we get it on the pressing sheet and get it all arranged, then you'll peel it off. You make it into one big applique and then you peel it off, and you then go from there to arrange it onto your background. But in this case, with this one, okay, so I'm missing piece 21. Some of these pieces fell out, and I found one of them before. I might have lost that one. Okay, so for right now, this guy doesn't get his little thing, but you know what? If I find it, great. Oh no, it's right there. Oh my gosh, I didn't read my own writing. I was going to say, if I didn't find it, I wasn't going to bother. It doesn't need it. It can be without its little spiky thingy on the end there. Forgot what I was saying now. Oh, I know what I was saying. So basically, if you've done a few of these, you'll get to the point where you don't even really need the help. You'll know what the process is, and you can just do it on your own. And but if you want to watch, a lot of people know very well how to sew, and they just enjoy doing the class and having the instruction and follow. Okay, this one, I don't know which way to go. I'm just going to get like that. They just like to, go to class and follow along, and it's fun. And I totally understand, wanting some instruction. But I think you'll find that after a while, it'll be like, okay, it's the same deal. Like this one we're arranging on a pressing sheet. Okay, got it. Oh, this one we're arranging on just directly on the fabric. Okay, I got it. And I always tell people that I try to get all the hard work done for you. I, of course, do the designing and do all the digitizing, and I get everything laser cut for you. I actually, I pre-wash all the fabrics. I pack all the fabrics up for you guys. I label everything so you know what's what. And I am, as of this point, my mom has been coming in to help me the last few years because I've had quite a little boom just the last couple years. I used to be able to do everything by myself. I was just a, one-woman show for many, many years. And then all of a sudden, the last few years, I've had just a lot to keep up with, and I haven't been able to do it without some help. And my mom comes in and helps me. And my daughter helps me sometimes if I beg her, and my husband comes in and he'll help me too. But for the most part, the majority, that one's done now, is done by me. And I would say when it comes to packing up the kits, 99, probably 0.9% of every kit I've ever sold was packaged by me. I think my mom has packed a couple of them for me in the past. My husband packed a couple of them last year. I'm very picky, and I like them to be done a very specific way, and I like them to be very organized and straight. And you might notice, like with this kit, it's like, okay, when you pack them, I want you to fold them so everything is in line. They should look like it's one piece. And they're like, really? That's kind of, are you serious? And I'm like, yes. And then I want these spaced the same way. And they're like, I like them to be very consistent. So sometimes I think for me, it's, you know, letting go and letting somebody help is hard. But anyhow, I try to make sure everything is as easy as I can make it for you, but still look like it was really hard. That's my goal. Make it look hard. So when you say to somebody, oh yeah, I made that, I put that together, they don't have to know how easy it was. They really don't. You don't have to tell them that it was like putting a puzzle. You don't have to tell them it's like stickers. So I did lose a piece. I'm gonna shake this. I don't know where it is. I lost one little blue piece for this one, but you know what? That's fine. He doesn't get a blue piece. He doesn't need a blue piece. So a dark blue piece. He's good to go. Okay, so I'm finished now with both of the sides. And now the last thing that I need to do is fuse everything. So let me go ahead and do the fusing process. Now my iron is probably gone to sleep as it usually does. Yep, there it goes. Okay, so when it comes to the fusing process, this is one of the parts that I always want people to know how to do correctly, because, actually I'm gonna turn this way, because when you're doing a wall hanging or a table runner or a quilt or anything, you really want to make sure that you use the Steam-A-Seam and fuse it correctly. Because I know something like this, I always try to tell people, like a table runner like this is probably not one that you're going to let people put a bowl of spaghetti on and dish themselves up and drip all over it. It's more decorative than a functional table runner. I mean, it definitely can function as a pretty table runner, but it's probably not going to be on your dining room table under a bowl of spaghetti. So you're not likely to wash it often, but you can wash it. If you ever do need to wash this, I highly suggest hand washing it and then letting it air dry. Don't throw it in the dryer, because the dryer is going to do what we're going to do right now, which is basically re-steaming everything. And that can actually loosen up your appliques and have some of them fall off. So we don't want to do that. But when we're steaming, when we're fusing, we want to make sure that we are using steam. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just have my dryer on about a medium heat. You might notice that my dryer is around the medium right now. I have a dryer that runs pretty cold, so I can put mine up to a hotter heat and it's not going to overheat the glue. So know your iron. I think I was calling it a dryer. Sorry about that. Your iron. So know your iron. If your iron is one that is really hot, even on a low setting, turn it all the way down. If your iron is like mine and it never seems to get like real hot, you can put it medium to high and you'll be okay. I'll tell you, if your iron is too hot, you can actually damage the glue and you won't get as good of adhesion. So you want it kind of somewhere in the middle. And the first thing we're going to do is we're actually just going to press and lift. And we're pressing and lifting. And all I'm doing right now is I'm just gently warming up that glue and getting it to get all the appliques with this just sort of warm temporary hold on the background. So I'm going to lift it up, I'm going to press, and I'm going to lift, and I'm going to press, and I'm going to lift. And I'm just doing this over the entire applique portion. And so what this is going to ensure is that when you go, see, look, this little leaf piece was peeling up. So if I were to go like this in iron, I would have hit that piece and I would have curled it right up and it would have stuck to my iron and it would have been ruined. So pressing and lifting is going to help ensure that I don't have any appliques that peel up or peel away and get stuck on my iron and get ruined. So now that I've kind of pressed everything and I've warmed that glue up, now I can do the fusing portion of that. So for me, I don't like to use my steam iron because I have had some issues with the steaming in the past. So I actually use a spray bottle to get that moisture in there. If you have a good reliable steam iron, you can certainly use your steam. And if you're doing that, here's what I do. I hold my iron about an inch to a half inch above the space I'm going to steam, above my applique, and I blast it with steam for 5 or 6 seconds, and then you just set the iron straight down on it and hold it, let it just sit there with dry heat for about another 8 to 10 seconds. Then you move to the next footprint and you do the same thing over and over and over all the way across. Then if you have, this one has very thin layers of applique. Most places you might have 2 layers, maybe I'm a third under that branch, but it's very skinny. This one here, I would just do that over the top. On some of my other designs, I even recommend doing it from the back afterwards, and you certainly can do that in this case too if you really want to ensure that that steam and that moisture has made it all the way to the background. Because after all, your applique needs to stick to the background, right? So you want it to penetrate all the way through. So for me, because I don't have a trustworthy iron, I'm going to just spritz it pretty well, get it pretty wet with some water, and then I'm just going to place my iron over the applique and I'm going to let that dry heat evaporate, and it gets that glue to smooth out underneath the appliques and fill in all those spaces and fuse really good. And then once I have got about that 10 seconds, and you might notice some wrinkling of your background because of that heat or because of that steam. Once you've got it fused down, you can kind of go in and do a little bit of ironing to flatten it back out. That's totally fine to do. And you'll notice that happens because when you steam, it does kind of, the fabric wants to do that. So we're going to go to the next footprint. Spritz it really well. Get your dry heat on there and just let it evaporate and get everything nice and fused really well. So this is one of the steps that I've found some people who have struggled with Steam-A-Seam. It's because they're not using water or steam. And you know, after all, it is in its name, Steam-A-Seam. When I learned to use this back when it had first come out and I was a teenager, my mom went to a convention and she's like, hey, they have this new product. It's really cool. It's for applique. And back then it was like applique was all turned edge. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want anything to do with applique. And she was like, no, you don't have to do turned edge. It's raw edge applique. And I was like, okay. So she showed me how it worked. And I thought like, oh, that's really cool. And then, designers started using it and were able to do these really detailed designs using this Steam-A-Seam, and I just ended up thinking like, oh, that was so cool. So when those sort of designs by some of the other artists out there, like McKenna Ryan in particular was one that she did a lot of wildlife stuff, and my family had a lot of her patterns because up here in Alaska, she at the time, I believe, lived in Montana. We have a lot of similar animals. So she had like moose and bears and other things. And so I ended up making a lot of samples of her designs that we were kitting up and selling at the fabric store that my family owned. And that's how I kind of got into even using it, was because I was sort of the sample maker for a while when I was in college and in my early 20s. And after a while, I thought, well, McKenna Ryan never did a caribou back then. I think she's done like a reindeer since. I don't know that it's specifically a caribou, but I think she's done some reindeer and like Christmas ones. But back then there had not been any reindeer caribou or anything like that. And we have caribou in my area. And I thought, well, maybe I could do something that would be a caribou. And so I ended up actually doing a design just to kind of fill in that need or that desire to have, you know, this animal that we have that's unique here. And that's kind of how I got into it. I did one and people liked it. And I definitely was very influenced by McKenna Ryan's style back then because I'd done so many of her samples for my family. And then after a few years, I kind of got into my own style, which is a little more a little more detailed, and I kind of like to focus on one subject really well and not do so much scenery, I guess. Like she has some beautiful, beautiful designs, but and she does a lot of like scenes and scenic things. And I really like if I'm going to do a moose, I got to where it was like I just really want it to be about the moose more than anything. And if I'm going to do florals, I like them to just be really about the florals, but that is a lot of detail that I put into my stuff. And before the laser kits, I know there were some people who were like, "Hey, I think your stuff's really pretty, but I'm not cutting that out." And I totally understood. I was like, "Yeah, I don't blame you." And when laser kits actually first came out, I kind of thought, "No way, those are so cheating. Like you don't even have to cut them yourself. Are you kidding me?" Um, but I did find that there were some folks who said like, well, I would never be able to cut them. Like maybe they just physically couldn't. I know like my grandmother was like, well, I couldn't cut them because I have arthritis and it would be too hard on my hands. And then other people were just like, I'm just not very, very good at cutting, and my appliques wouldn't look very well. So I don't want to put in that time and money and the time, cutting them yourself takes time for sure. So after a while, I was kind of convinced that the laser is kind of a good thing. And I'm really glad that I was, because now I can show people like, honestly, if you can peel and stick a sticker, you can do these laser kits, and so anybody can do them. I always tell people, if you can peel and stick, you can do these. So, okay, so I've got my appliques fused here real well. And what I'm just doing right now is I'm kind of just trying to iron out that background and smooth it down a little bit, because that steam kind of crinkles it up a bit. So I'm just going through and just pressing over. And when I go to also do the quilting on this, the batting will kind of puff up under that too and get rid of that wrinkle. But we've got our appliques fused down really well. So now really quick before I go, we've got our design done here. I just want to talk for a second about doing your quilting. So for me, I don't like to stitch on the appliques. Now, if you think this is going to be a design that you're going to wash regularly, then I would recommend stitching on them, because after all, it is just glue that's holding these down, and it will break down over time. If you do ever wash this, again, do a delicate cycle in your washer or hand wash it, and then air dry and just iron it afterwards, press it out. Don't throw it in your dryer, because doing in your dryer is going to do what I just did, which is steaming everything again. And this glue can loosen up and you can lose some of your appliques in that drying process. But air dry and then doing some pressing with your iron, you're going to be okay then. So then quilting, if you're going to wash it a lot, or you really just don't trust this glue, which some people just don't, you can stitch on these for sure. You don't want to stitch on them until after you fuse them, because right now the glue is now fused. It's like hardened, it's in place. Before I did the fusing, it's still tacky and it will gum up your needle. So if you're going to stitch on things, use a matching colored thread and do any sort of beautiful decorative stitching you want. I don't like to do a lot of quilting. I have a neck injury, and so I don't really like to be hunched over a sewing machine very much. So I use clear thread, and what I do is I stitch on my background, and I will start in a place like this, and around the outside of the applique, usually within 1/8 of an inch, I will go around and just kind of follow around the outside, and I'll just go around on the background, not hitting the appliques with any of the needle, just going around everything until I go all the way to the end, back around here, and come back and I meet. And if I have any big sections, like maybe in here or in here, I might go in and take the clear thread and stitch around those just to tack them down. And that's about all I do for quilting. Now on something like this, you might want to come out and do a little bit of stitching out here or something, to hold that down as well. But generally, I do very minimal quilting, but I've seen people do really beautiful things with quilting and just take their designs, these designs, to a whole nother level of detail with that. So if you need any help or tips, or you want to like kind of review a little more of how I do the quilting, you can also go on my website. My tips page has photos and step-by-step on doing quilting, doing binding, and if you end up deciding you want to try to cut something yourself, I also have step-by-step on how to use fusible web from beginning to end, tracing your own things, cutting them out, and then fusing them. And of course, if you're doing this and you need a refresher on fusing and you are doing it and don't want to watch the video again, you can go on the tips page too and just skip down to the point where we're fusing, because I have that on there as well. But that's about it for today. This one is ready to get quilted and bound and finished up. So I thank you all for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope that you're seeing that these are not as hard as they look and that you can certainly put them together. And hope you'll do one again with me soon. Thanks so much.